Welcome back to Without a Doubt, the podcast where we celebrate living life authentically and organically as ourselves. We're the ones who believe in creating our own paths and living our truths out loud. Join in on an honest and open conversation about self-discovery and growth. I'm your girl Mad, your host. I'm a freelance entrepreneur, a 30-something-year-old human that has never exactly done what was expected of me. I'm a sprinkle of reality, glimmer of sunshine, and as unfiltered as they come. I'm here to remind you that it's okay to live life differently and that you don't have to be what is expected of you and that your happiness matters. What's going on? What time is it there? Is it 8 o'clock or is it 9 o'clock?
It is 8.
So you're a morning girl.
No, not here lately. Like literally, we have been sleeping in. And so this morning we got up at 7, and by we I mean me and my pup, and we were both looking at each other like, no, no, this is too early for us right now.
So you don't set an alarm most days?
Not usually. No. We have just been like chilling, straight up chilling.
That's how I kind of roll too. I do set an alarm, but I don't adhere by it. It's like hey, good morning. Let's try to
Mhm.
get your day started. But a lot of times, like I snooze it. I get up at really whatever time I want.
Yeah,
I
totally.
just like to be up before 8. So I'm one
Yeah.
of those people.
So we usually like I usually don't set an alarm because we're up usually by 8 o'clock, 8:30.
It's your dog getting you up though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
No, my dog
this
will let me sleep. Like he won't come in. He'll come in, but he'll like lay down somewhere, and then I'll go right back to sleep.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean she's only 5 months old, so she's like, let's go. Come on. I'm getting a little
She's a puppy.
rambunctious. Yeah, she's a puppy. She's all about that puppy life. So
That's nice.
yeah,
I love people who don't live life by an alarm clock because I did it for so long, and I think it's such a luxury that you don't have to do that.
it is. Yeah. And I'm that's probably gonna change like really soon. My husband's coming home and we're a one car family. So I'll probably be taking him to work or I'll hear his alarm if he takes a car or whatever. So
It's
that'll definitely,
different.
yeah. So we're really gonna be soaking it up right now. We're like just living life.
I think it's different. Like when you don't have to like physically like you're not going to work. You just get to get up, have your coffee. You could have like a slow morning, drive him to work.
Yes, absolutely. Like
I know
in
it does
home,
suck. Yeah.
town, but yeah,
So
yeah.
let's start off. Well, I'm probably going to use this clip anyway, but give an intro, talk about who you are,
Yeah.
whatever you want to say, Sarah.
Awesome. Well, first off, thanks for having me. By the way, your last episode, Unpopular Opinions, I like resonated with all of them except eating out. I was like, no, no.
Were you ever a server in your past life?
I was and so like I could totally see that. Like I mean I didn't do it for long. It was like a very like small restaurant that catered mostly to like older people, so kind of serving life. But I love to go and eat out, but I think that's because I'm the one that cooks all the time.
Me too.
Like yeah, my husband, he does not cook. So I'm like, there's nothing I love better than like going and having a really nice meal and not having to clean up. But if the service is shit, I'm just like, nah,
It
not a fan.
sucks. I know. And I think that's why
No.
I just feel like it becomes a waste of money. I think when you go out and do it once in a while, it's nice. But
Yeah,
there are people that go out to eat every single night. And I'm like, I
I
don't
could never.
understand that because
Oh,
I love home cooked food. Like not necessarily even mine. Like my mom's a bomb ass cook, but like I just like home cooked food. I feel like it tastes better. It's got to be healthier.
yeah, yeah. I could never like go. I could never eat like fast food every day. My stomach would be trash. I couldn't even eat out every day. I'd like my stomach would be trash. But like on the weekends, like I love to have like a Saturday, dinner with my husband, like somewhere nice though. Like we're talking about like a good restaurant. Like we're gonna
That's
spend a little
funny.
money. Yeah.
My
But
grand my grandma takes me out one day a week. I shouldn't say, yeah, she takes me out, but I technically take her out. Like for over 10 years, I've always either gone to her house for lunch, but now she's 86. She likes to be wined and dined. We only go to nice ass restaurants. Like they have to have fabric like napkins. Like that's
Oh my
she
gosh, that's
she
so
drinks
cute.
a glass of wine at lunch. And I go out to lunch at least once a week. So
Yeah.
I it's not that I don't do it. I do it. I just think like I don't like to spend my own money. My grandma, thank you, grandma. She pays for lunch every single week. That's just kind of the thing we've always done. I pay for once in a while when it's like a
Uh,
special thing, but she refuses to let me pay. So
yeah.
I am we do eat out. I just prefer not to. I mean, I understand the cleanup, Sarah. I get it because I don't want
Yeah.
to clean up either. Kendra does all that for me. So
I love that. Yeah, my husband, he does not like to eat out only because he's a tightwad and he doesn't like to spend money. So
I'm the frugal Franny. And like when Kendra
yeah.
and I want to go out, I'm like, oh, let's go get like a good little burger. And it's like a cheap little place. It costs like $25. You get the fries and old fashioned hamburgers. That's kind of the stuff I want to go out and get because I don't make that at home, you know?
Yeah, totally. I could see
So
that. I could
yeah.
I
All
love
right.
it. All right. Well, I'm Sarah. I am an entrepreneur as well, much like you. I own my own business. I have owned my own business for about 3 to 4 years now. And I have ADHD. So I wear a lot of different hats, mostly so that way I don't get bored, because I love to switch things up. I finally have like entered into like my era of understanding myself a little bit better. So knowing that has led me to like do lots of different things. So, I'm a board certified life coach and I'm certified in about 8 different healing modalities that like really help with many different things really. So I do like hypnosis, Reiki, parts techniques, timeline techniques, and help you release emotions like somatic therapy. I'm also a board certified holistic health coach, and I'm an Ayurveda practitioner, and I'm also a nurse. So lots of different hats that I wear. I'm currently not working as a nurse, and it is an absolute blessing, because that is one of the toughest jobs literally ever. I'm also a military spouse, and what I primarily do in my like roles, like with the hats that I wear, is I really help women like with chronic illness, get in touch with like their body, connect back with their body. Because when you have a chronic illness, usually you feel a sense of like disconnect, you feel anger. So we do like a lot of healing with that. And that also looks like self-love coaching, confidence coaching, and then really understanding what's going on in the body, what's going on in the health space in your body. And I always like to say I kind of like help plus size women, because I'm a plus size woman as myself, really understand that they can have health in the body that they're in. They don't have to change that in order to feel like they are living a healthier life. So, and that can look like a lot of different things. I obviously use a lot of like holistic health techniques, but I can also do like lab testing and even use like Ayurveda and kind of blend it all together. So we're using like Western medicine and Eastern medicine and letting it kind of come together with somatic therapy. So I also have a little puppy. She's 5 months old. She's basically my life right now. My whole day revolves around her. And yeah, I live on this beautiful little island, so I'm really enjoying like island life in Washington State and kind of a little bit about me.
You know what's crazy is like you're the third person in a row that I've have on my podcast, and you guys are all from Washington.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
And the one of the girls lives on an island too. But you live on an Air Force Base island, right?
No, so like the island was here before the naval base was
Okay,
here.
all right.
So some people, like the way the island works is like there's little towns all through it. So like the island, you can travel like from start to finish for like an hour and you'll be at the other end of the island.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, but the town I'm in has obviously the naval base here.
That's awesome. It only takes 8 hours to get out of my state.
I know. I know. It's crazy. I love Florida.
That's why people vacation here. But you live here, you vacation here because if you don't fly out of state, it takes you so long to drive.
Yeah, it really does.
Florida's nice, but it's also got its things.
It does. It does. It really does.
All right. So what got you into coaching women about, well, obviously you said you're plus size, but in chronic wellness, chronic health, I should say, because of your conditions and things like that, what pushed you to want to help other women? You were a nurse, obviously, so you love to care for people. You've obviously got a big soft heart. I feel like, yes, you're right. Being a nurse is one of the hardest jobs, most underrated jobs. People don't give them enough credit. You don't get paid enough money. You do the grossest shit. And you have to be nice and
Yeah.
kind. And I could never, I always say I could never be a nurse. My grandma was a nurse. I don't know how she was a nurse because she is not the nicest person I know. She but I definitely
Different
think,
generation.
yeah, totally different generation. But I think that nurses don't get enough. And I think we saw that during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what's crazy is, so I feel like there's like this, just like a little side note, like there's this like entryway from like the eldest daughter who is um parentified. They like have like this gateway into like helping careers, is what I've noticed. So like therapists, coaching, nurses, all that kind of stuff. Totally.
You definitely are on to something there because
Yeah,
I am also the
absolutely.
oldest. So that makes sense.
Okay. I could totally see it. Totally see it. So with that, I thought like my whole life, I always thought I was going to be a doctor. And then I was like, wait, doctors don't have enough like patient care. So then I moved into nursing. So what's really funny is that it took me like 3 times through nursing school, and I failed 2 times before I finally like actually passed. And so like I should have used that as a sign that maybe this isn't the right path, but I was very like strong-willed, like I'm gonna keep going. So I did, and before that, I was a CNA. I started working as a CNA, which is like a nurse's assistant, at the age of 16. So I was already, yeah, it was. I, I wish someone would have told me no. I wish someone would have been like, you should not do this because, at 16, you're seeing things that no 16-year-old should see,
Right.
holding hands of people that are passing, and it's gut-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. And as if like being a 16-year-old is not hard enough, doing work like that, I feel like can be very traumatic.
Definitely.
So I think that leads to like a lot of trauma in the body. So from there, I moved in to nursing, and I think very quickly in nursing, um, I started out as a pediatric nurse, and that was great. But it had its very, very difficult times. And for the most part, the good outweighed the bad. But from there, I moved to OBGYN, and it just got worse because like I was dealing with my own like fertility issues, health issues, while also holding the hands of other women who are dealing with fertility issues. I remember my very first day on the job. Um, it was like so fast paced. I worked in a clinic, but it was still so fast paced. We took someone back for like an ultrasound. She had twins. And then not even 2 minutes later, like we are like holding her and she's getting on a helicopter, getting flown out. Like, I mean, it was just so, so much. And I quickly was like, I need something else. Like, this can't be the only thing. And from there, I had already been in the MLM space, which is a whole nother thing, thinking that I was gonna own my own business. And
Girl, maybe
uh,
you need to come on another podcast and join me for that because we could talk.
oh, I have so many stories. I feel like
Have you,
coaching them,
wait, going into that. Have you read the book, Hey Hun?
no.
Okay.
I
I,
like try not to like dive too much into some of those things because it's like not, it's like just so like, oh gosh,
it's
who was I?
toxic. It's
It
really
is.
toxic. That's a whole thing we could go into.
Yeah,
But if I
totally.
really I audiobooked it and I enjoyed the audiobook the best. I didn't read it because I do love to read, but Hey Hun by Emily Paulson. She was one of the top girls for Rodin and Fields.
Oh my,
And I mean, you can Google it and find out that information.
Yeah.
Like, I probably shouldn't say that, but you could Google it. So it's there.
Yeah.
And she talks about her experience and everything. And you probably had the same thoughts going into your MLM. Like, I had the same thoughts. Like, she had
Yeah.
the same thoughts. And
Oh,
I have that on my list of topics, but I still get paid by my MLM and I don't promote it at all because I make money. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to not take the paycheck because it's still rolling in. My upline would get it. So fuck that. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
So we could go into a whole thing on that.
totally. Like I feel like they definitely like you're sold a dream because they prey on like young women and sometimes like young Christian women and
They
like
just
just
also prey
military
on
spouses,
they
anyone.
definitely military, but they prey on really strong women too that are affluent in their communities and influential in their communities. And
Yeah.
that was me.
Yeah. Nope. Same. I understand.
Girl, you can come back on another episode
Yes.
and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that.
Just real quick, I don't get a check from my MLM anymore because I was bullied into canceling my account once I finally spoke out and was like, "Hey, listen, like this is bullshit," and like I don't
What company did you work for?
Beachbody.
Oh,
Yeah, so like I mean like heavy into eating disorders, heavy into
you saw my face? Because I was an Orange Theory
it's
fitness coach for 6 years and
hard.
taught spin and had my own weight loss. So when I saw other people that were coaching and doing that, and you're not certified, you're just like selling this
I
program,
know,
I
what
was kind of
the heck?
like,
And
what
we were
the
told to
fuck?
call each other health coaches, and I was like,
Yeah,
ugh.
that was one space
Now,
I had a really hard time moving into, like, when people were trying to sell me that. I did do it for a while. I really actually liked the program because for 30 minutes a day you could get a good workout at home. Like, I liked
yeah,
it actually, but
totally.
I could never sell it or be like a rep for that company because I always thought to myself, like, how could I be a fitness professional and sell something like this that doesn't, like, all these are fitness professionals, Auburn and all of them, they are, but not the
Yeah,
people who sell it.
yeah.
And
Well,
that's the
and
same for my company though, Sarah, what I sell. Same. I'm not a expertise in hair care, but I sell that. I
yeah,
sold that.
totally. I totally get where you're coming from. It's actually interesting though, because it's like very much so like a lot of the comments and stuff like that, like once your eyes were open, like you could hear like a lot of like the fat phobic comments, the shaming. All the plus size women were always in like leggings and t-shirts when everybody else was in like sports bras and like shorts. This it kind of just coincides all together. So like I was working as a nurse and also doing Beachbody coaching. And I really thought that that was like I really loved like the health space, obviously, like even as a nurse. And so I really thought that that was going to be like my gateway. I really thought I was going to be super successful. And it's like I was really trying to make something work that just was not going to work for me because it was not my path.
Same, same.
Yeah, fast forward to the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of us were on TikTok, and I found a girl on there who was talking about her a day in the life in her plus size body, and she would like show the food she's eating, she would show the things that she's doing, and I was like, I just really love this. I really resonated with it. And I was kind of like moving out of an eating disorder myself, like kind of realizing like these things that Beachbody are teaching is not really like working for me. It's making me feel worse. And so I found her and it just kind of like led me into like this gateway of like understanding my body better. And then she had talked about a coaching program called QRE, and it's quantum ripple effect. And you get board certified in life coaching and all these different modalities. And I was like, okay, wait, but this could be something really amazing. And I talked to my husband. We talked and talked and talked about it because it was such a huge investment. It was probably one of the biggest investments I had ever made. And we decided that we were going to make it work and I was going to do it. And I did it, and I launched some of like my very first programs, started doing coaching for that, and I loved it so much that I also at that point was in school to be an Ayurveda practitioner at the same time because I knew like being a nurse wasn't something like I was passionate about it, but at the same time like you know if you don't agree with like what the doctor is saying, then you're SOL. And
Correct.
there's so much like there was so much trauma happening in like the nursing space for me particularly, like just seeing patients, but also like in the nursing space in a whole, like especially during the pandemic, I decided not to work right off the bat in the pandemic because we had just moved and I had a chronic illness as well. And there was so much like unknown. So I really felt like I needed to do something different. And like this is my chance to like really build something great and kind of figure out what it is that like I wanted to do and what was possible. And that kind of led me to first start with like confidence coaching. But from there, I've kind of moved into more of like the actual health space, dealing with my own chronic illness issues and just like really starting to like understand with a lot of my clients like what was missing. And it was like this direct link to like health and wellness and like the connection with the body. And so I really wanted to find a way to like kind of incorporate everything that I had learned. So like the Ayurveda and like life coaching. And I was like, how does this like work together? And it kind of just dawned on me, like, of course it would work together because we're talking about the mind and the body, and those two things are not so disconnected. They're very much connected. And so like able to work on the mind and like see success, you also have to bring in the body element. So I just kind of blended them two together, and that's kind of where I'm at today.
I love that. You just said that. I think a lot of people actually do not have mind body connected. They're not. And everyone is very disconnected. Um,
Mhm.
like I learned that mostly in my when I was coaching, but
Mhm.
I also think that I learned how to connect my mind and body when I was going through my own weight loss and my own literally I think I transformed not just my body but my mind too, because when I was ready to get into a new version of me,
Mhm.
everything clicked.
Yeah,
Everything. And I think when you're ready, the mind body connected, that connection is legit. But I
totally.
think so many people don't have that, and they don't have, I think honestly it's like a support thing, like somebody telling you like this is possible, you can love who you are and still have these issues, or you can be who you are with this. And a lot of us don't, a lot of people just don't understand that. And
Yeah.
I think when you are a nurse, so you have that whole side of the wellness part already locked in. But
Yeah.
you dealing with your own chronic illness and how you feel and your own metamorphosis, I should call that, right? You can really help people. Like
Yeah.
you've been
I
there, you get it.
yeah. Yes. So there's like this beautiful component of like having like the lived experience of it all. So like not only do I have the knowledge, but I also have that lived experience, which I think is very special because what I've noticed, like I've worked with a lot of different like holistic coaches, like dietitians even, and if they don't know like what you've been through, that connection is very, it can be very hard. But on top of that though, like what you were saying, that disconnect, I think what happens too, like in the chronic illness world, is that you feel a lot of like betrayal from your body. And so because you're like you're sick and you're trying everything and you're doing everything and it's just not working. And so it's like this big sense of like my body has failed me. And so then you get that massive like disconnect. And what it really is like you have to better understand like your body, you have to forgive your body, you have to like work on those really key elements able to connect in, because if not, then there's just always going to be this constant disconnect, this mistrust, this like this element of like not being able to love yourself or feel confident because of this mistrust, because of this misconnection. So like to move through it all, like you really have to forgive and kind of like understand and build that connection. I work with a lot of women who just like the self-hate, the self-sabotage that is there is like heartbreaking. And it's simply because they have this ailment and they have to understand that it's not their fault. And that takes a lot of work, especially like living in a society who their biggest focus is on things that are like so materialistic. And, you know, a lot of doctors, like, I love doctors, I love Western medicine. This isn't like a witch hunt or anything, but they really miss the mark, especially when they're working with marginalized bodies. Like, it's always, the narrative is always to lose weight, but never like understanding why that person can't lose weight. Like, if it was that easy, like everybody would do it, right? And when you have a chronic illness, it's not that easy, right? You're talking about things like pain and metabolic health and hormone health, and most providers just don't even know what they're talking about or know what they're doing. And in fact, most providers will give like nutrition advice, and they don't even have any knowledge in nutrition. They have no business giving that advice. And it's like, you're doing, I remember like being like one of my smallest weights, well, not one of my smallest weights, but like really like working 12 hours, getting up at like 4 a.m., getting my workout in, and then even working out in the evening, like skipping meals, doing all this crazy stuff to lose weight because I thought that that was the answer, and telling my provider this. And his recommendation was, okay, well, maybe you should work out more and maybe you should restrict your calories to like 500 calories. And I remember being so thankful at that time that like I knew better, or they would like recommend like weight loss surgery. And it's like, my problem, recommend weight loss surgery and not even ask me what I was eating, or like what my routines were. And I'm like, my problem isn't that I eat too much. And now that I know better, it's like now I recognize that my problem was that I didn't eat enough. And I was moving in a flight or fight response. And I was in this like fawn. And so of course my body's not going to feel safe to lose weight. Of course I can't do anything like that. And not to mention, like, all of my hormone levels were trash. And so, like, if the body doesn't feel safe, which usually it does not with a chronic illness, you're not going to lose weight. And that should never actually be the goal.
I think that's
So,
it's actually very relatable, everything that's like, even for me, I'm not in the chronic illness space, you know. I The self-sabotage, I think, is a very human like thing, but I also think that providers are not, there's only so much knowledge each person can have, specialize in. And I
yeah.
I didn't realize also, like, my one of my friends, one of my clients was a dietitian, and she specialized in eating habits and food disorders and things like that with girls in pageants. She didn't deal with overweight girls. She dealt with women who were under eating and starving and anorexia. She was anorexic herself at one time. I have a podcast about that way in the beginning. She's amazing and she gave great tips. And your story sounds like mine, which is crazy because at my smallest, I was 135 pounds. And that sounds very small when I say it now. Like 135 pounds is wild to me. But I was
Yeah.
teaching 2 hours of spin. That means I was on the bike, teaching, sweating, nastiness, like just burning 500 calories each. That's 1,000 there. I was taking one Orange Theory class a day, going to hot yoga. That's 4 hours of workouts in one day. We would walk our dog. Then I was starving myself throughout the day, trying like intermittent fasting because I was never happy with my own body, even though I was a fitness instructor at the time. You
Mhm.
know, it's crazy. And I was doing all these things. And then I sat down with my dietitian and she's like, "What are you eating? This is how much you're working out. Why aren't you eating after this? What?" Like, she literally is like, "Why are you cutting out rice? Why did you cut out carbs? Why did you cut out all this?" And I was like, "I thought this is what I needed to do because originally the first person that helped me in my weight loss journey was a lifestyle coach, not really certified in any nutrition. She was a fitness coach with a program to help you lose weight, keep you account. It should have been called an accountability program. And I would have
Mhm.
to send her my food journals every day. I think about the food journals that I sent to her. The littlest amount of food was on that. It was like half a sweet potato, 4 ounces of chicken breast was my dinner. And honestly, like, how could I have lived off of that when I was doing 3 hours of working out? Oh, I worked a full time waitressing job, by the way. So imagine stepping
Oh,
around and working. I was very active and I was eating like 4 ounces of nuts. That's it for a snack. I was starving myself.
yeah.
So when
Your poor body.
I sat down with this dietitian. She's like, "Who gave you this plan?" And I was like, "Well, it wasn't really a plan. It was kind of something I came up with. And my lifestyle coach at the time that helped me. I did lose 75 pounds, remind you.
Mhm.
I it worked. I was starving myself, okay?
Yeah.
I hit a plateau. I couldn't lose weight. I didn't like where my body was. I felt tired, fatigued. I just didn't have the energy to do anything. And she was like,
Right.
"You're not eating, girl." My dietitian friend was like, "Eat the spaghetti. After you teach this 1 hour spin class, this is what you're eating." Like, she literally was like, "Try this." And it was like delicious ass food. They were delicious bars and food I could make and bagels. And she wasn't depriving me of life and food. But it was a dietitian that was specialized in food, and you need specialization in certain aspects of certain things. You can't go to the doctor and expect your doctor to know everything about your thyroid. That's why you go to your thyroid doctor, you
Yes.
know? And
Yeah.
how are we listening to one person? Why and since when do we think that getting one opinion from one doctor is okay? Shouldn't we be getting multiple opinions, multiple
Yeah.
people? If you feel like something's icky, we all need to advocate for ourselves. And I think in the chronic illness world, it's definitely harder because when you don't know what's going on, you will literally take anything that
Yeah.
you
You're
can because you want to feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And I think like the biggest thing, like the biggest mark that we're constantly missing is that just like realizing how much like mistrust and connection that like we're missing with our body when we don't listen, right? Like when we are ignoring it and thinking that we can plow forward with what we think is best, it really creates this disconnection, and that is so damaging. It takes a long time to repair. So like I know like tons of the women that I work with, like they'll be like, this is like really, really hard. This is taking forever. And I'm like, but think about how long you were not listening, right? Like, and I say that with so much compassion and love. It's not just like so simple as that, but like we really have to think about like what we were doing and like the foundations that were not being like listened to, and that how much like damage we were doing there. Like it takes a long time to repair, almost just as long, right?
But not only are you repairing, you're unlearning.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the hardest part. It's like you're retraining your brain to
Yeah,
fit a new formula that could be better for you, but you're still focused on what you used to do because that's what you did for so long.
absolutely.
It's really, I think it's really hard. This is legit life. It's not just even chronic illness. I think
No, no, no.
a lot of people are like this in the weight loss space,
Yeah,
in just a lot. And I think it's just so relatable. You saying all these things, and I think it's amazing, honestly, that you kind of took your own experience, like you say, your lived in experience, and you really do use it to the benefit of other people. And the understanding, I think, is what makes, I feel like, it's crazy, we're on this call, I'm like, I feel like I know you because I watch your Instagram stories, and like we chat here and there, but
yeah,
because you are so open and vulnerable on your stories about your life. And I think, you even cry sometimes on your story, and I think that that's probably what a lot of women that you do coach relate to and understand, that you're like, they like that, probably, that you're so open and
mm,
vulnerable, because so many people don't want to show those sides, especially when you have you're an expertise, like you're an expert, you know a lot in something, you specialize. You don't want people to view you any different off your pedestal. Like that, you want that like glass bubble that you're in. So once you come back to human level, you think that people aren't going to relate. But honestly, if you break free from that glass bubble, man,
mm.
people will come flocking to you. I think that's
I
why I
you
was
know
drawn to
what?
you too.
I really appreciate you like saying all that. It's funny because I was just having this conversation in my DMs about like the information that like just like how I share on Instagram. And so like for me, like first off with the glass bubble, like I don't want to be in a glass bubble. I have no desire to be in a glass. I may be the expertise, but I promise you, I may be the expert. I know my knowledge, but I promise you, like one thing is that I'm not an expert in your body, in
Right.
your feelings, in your emotions. Like I get to coach you, but like when I coach you, it's more of like you are driving and I'm in the passenger seat. And I may say, like, hey, I think we should take a right turn here. And if you're like, actually, I feel like I need to take a left, I'll be like, okay, let's take a left. And we'll work through whatever that looks like. Like, you are always in the driver's seat, and I'm just there to guide you. But much like a GPS, there's other routes that we can take. And as long as that feels good in your body, like, I'm always open to that. So, like, I may be the expert, but honestly, you're the expert too. Like, deep down, like, I'm not here to fix you.
Right.
I'm simply here to tell you, like, there's other ways to do it. And if that works for you, that's great. I'll hold space for you. I'll make sure you feel seen and heard and validated. But at the end of the day, it is your body, it is your life. And I am just here to make things easier and support you in whatever decisions you make. But like, on the aspect of like Instagram stories, I have always like had this desire myself to feel seen and heard and validated. But not only that, and it's not my audience's responsibility to do that, but I will say that with that, I think for me, what's always been missing, like when I follow a coach, or like when I follow like an expert in their field, like a health coach or like a dietitian or something like that, like, I feel like I don't get enough of them and like their life. And not that they owe that by any means, but I've always wanted to be like different, in a sense that, like, not that I care if I stand out or not, but like in a sense that, like, I love to share my life. I love to talk. I'm a talker. I could talk all day about every little thing. I like to go in deep. I'm a very like depth person. I don't like surface level shit. Like, I don't want that small talk. Like, get that out of here. I like to go in. And so I feel like I can do that so naturally. And I think that's because of like my MLM days. Like, they always told us, like, share your story, share this. And so, like, blessing in disguise, I guess. I don't know, but it's always come so easy for me to just like be on and like share these things so easily. Like, I think that, like, I can cry. I'm a crier. I'm a big crier, but I always cry. So like, me crying on a story or something like that, it's not just like about me being vulnerable, but like, I I really want to like normalize like the human emotions. Like, there's so many times where like my clients or like people I know, like, they suppress them, and all that does is lead to more disease and stress in the body.
For
And again,
sure.
more disconnect, where if you just like let things flow freely, you let it out, you let it go, it doesn't like build up and then explode, or it doesn't get down deep into
Right.
like the tissues and cause pain and cause disease and stuff. You just let it out and then it's done. Like, it comes to a head and you're done. So um at least most of the time. Sometimes those emotions are a little bit bigger and you get to kind of like go deeper with them. But for me, on my stories, I love to just like share. I love to talk. I love to connect. I love to like, just be vulnerable, because if I'm the only account that you're following that's doing that, then I feel like, number one, like, it's kind of like a magnet, and you get to start like reflecting on yourself and reflecting like what's going on in your life. But also, at least you see it. At least you can see someone being like real and raw and authentic as fuck. Like, that's
Yeah,
just,
we need more of that.
I agree.
I'm the opposite. I was taught all like before I was even in the MLM world, I shared a lot. Like
Hmm.
I used to get on my stories, I'd Snapchat before Instagram
Yeah.
stories, I Snapchatted.
Snapchat.
And I
Yes.
used to Snapchat into my regular Snapchat story just about my day and then to like random people. And they'd be like really like like daily reminders, like something that happened to me. And I would be like, for example, this is just pulling it out of my ass, but I'd be like, maybe you came to my class and you told me, Madison, thank you so much for making me feel seen. That is something that somebody has told me. And then I'd be in my car driving home, and then I would be at a light and I'd be like, I just want to give you a reminder that we're all human on this planet and that all you have to do is say hello to somebody to make them feel seen. And I used to like share shit like that.
Oh,
And
I love it.
I used to get a lot of like, that is kind of how I think my upline, she was also my Orange Theory client, but I think that's how she kind of drew me in. She was like, you already use social media, you're vulnerable online. I used to share, I cried on my stories. I talked about everything. when I was having a bad day. Like I was on my stories all the time anyway, sharing my fucking life. And I like to do that. I think not that I'm any different than anybody, but sometimes I just felt like I had good things going on. I feel very inspirational. Like inside, I feel like my purpose is to lift other people up, even if I'm feeling shitty. That
Yeah.
is my purpose, is to try to just be a little ray of sunshine. And I've been
Mhm.
told that. And I'm not the brightest ray of sunshine all the time, but I try to be that way. And I just feel like that was my purpose at one time. Then I got into the MLM space and I was sharing a lot of things. And it was like, be more vulnerable. I'm like, how much more fucking vulnerable can I be? I literally give you all of me all of the time. And now I have to share about this shampoo and how I wash my hair with it. And you're telling me that like that didn't feel authentic to me. And then I think I started to pull back a little bit because every time I was sharing something, it was like, okay, what is the intention? Are you gonna are you gonna be able to get a customer this way? Are you talking about your product? Are you gonna be able to bring this into your next slide somehow? And I talked about on my podcast, Loosening the Grip of Social Media, because once I stepped away from the MLM world, and I'm like, I don't need to fucking share my story. I don't need to be that girl. I don't need to be the girl that everyone knows what's going on. I felt like my private life and everything feels better because I
Mm-hmm.
can I think, okay, it's easier when Kendra, my girlfriend, had a job and I was home all day because I worked 5 to 8. It's easier
Yeah.
to get on my stories and talk when nobody's in my house. It was easier
Right.
for me to talk and share a thought when nobody was here. But my girlfriend is home with me 24/7. We are basically together 24/7. We work,
Mm-hmm.
we side hustle together. We're together all the fucking time. My
Yeah.
my backboard is her instead of my Instagram stories, which it's kind of like that was my thought. I was like, well, I didn't have anybody before. I would share it on my stories. I did have her, I could text her about it, but it's
Not the
different.
same.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have other humans be like, Madison, you're so right. Like, you're right on the money. Like, I agree. It's
Mm-hmm.
nice that other people have those same thoughts as you. But then sometimes I feel like people would take some of the things I was doing, or they would see something I was doing, or something I said, and they would try to like use it against me, pin me, use a weakness or something that I said or shared, or be like, that's my fucking Instagram story. And that's what I said then. I'm allowed to change my opinion now. I'm allowed to be different. I'm allowed to
Totally.
retract that. I'm allowed to. How about when I called out of work one day because I had a fever of like 102 and I decided to go to the beach instead of sit at home on the couch because I needed some fucking sunshine? I sat at the beach for a fucking hour and then my job had the nerve to tell me, well, if you're 102 and you call out of work, you shouldn't be sitting at the beach. Bitch, you don't know how long I was there, what I was doing in my own free time. Like, I never called out of work ever before that. And you're gonna tell me, like, I'm like, how can you use what I'm doing in my own personal life against me because I'm sharing it out there? And like, I just don't. I think that's when I started to realize, like, I don't want to share. I do not share when I'm like, I usually share where I am later in the day because
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I'm also public. I didn't put my page back to private because I didn't really care. I have blocked a lot of people, but I just think that's how I kind of backed away. Like it's very interesting because what you said was, oh, I did it because of this. It was easy. That's how it kind of started. But I did it and then I did it. And then I was like, why the fuck am I sharing? Who cares? And
Yeah.
actually, it's funny because we found each other through Simone Grace Soul.
Yes. Yeah.
And she put in my mind, like back in November, I was like, that's kind of when I found her. I think maybe October I found her. And I started doing the garbage can post, which was like just trying to share whatever I could to like, because I'm like, why did I stop sharing about my life and what I was cooking? And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people will write to me and be like, Madison, I love that. And I'm like, why did I stop doing it? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why exactly I stopped, but it's like I had that limiting belief, like who really cares anymore, Madison? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very focused on my podcast. So like, I think that
Yeah.
when you're talking ADHD, I'm not diagnosed. I'm undiagnosed. I probably should go and get a diagnosis for them to tell me, hey, go, you are. But I wear a lot of hats like you. Once again, I feel like we connected very organically. I just think once I started following you, you even went to my personal page. Like I just think it was very easy. In real life, I feel like we could be friends, you know?
Oh, hands down.
Like
Totally.
we would go get
Um,
coffee and hang out and shit.
oh
So
my God. Yeah. I feel like we would just like talk nonstop, honestly. Like
no
it would be
shit.
so organic. I love it. Like, and just to like play devil's advocate, like with what you said, like, who cares? And then it's like the other side of that is like, exactly, who cares? So like,
Right.
do what you want, right? Like,
Exactly.
and that's
But
kind of like where I'm at, like with like, so like my page is a business page, right? Like I do business on that on my page, but I just feel like I didn't see like I'm in such a unique space of like having like my business is also like my lived experience. And so because of that, like
it's so
I like
intertwined.
yeah, and it's like I didn't want to disconnect that. Like that's a piece of me and that's led me to where I'm at. So like I wanted to share that. And there's like so many and I really really have had a hard time with this. Like I go back and forth all the time, but like a lot of like healthcare practitioners, professionals, they don't share that type of content. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing it wrong. And then I was like, but who's to say that they're doing it right,
Right.
right? And so like I always go back and forth. It's really hard. I'm like, maybe people won't take me seriously because I share this content. And then I was like, but who cares? Like that's not my client then. And that's okay. You know, like I'll call in who I need to call in. And why do I care if this person doesn't take me seriously? Like if they can't recognize that like I can be a person on my page and still be a professional, then I guess it doesn't matter, right?
Right. They're
Like
not meant for you.
exactly. And that's not who I'm trying to call in anyways. Like I'm trying to connect to the women who like get it, you know? And so I've had like that back and forth too, where there's like times where I just like don't share, but like here lately, I just feel like I've been really like in my like I don't give a fuck era. Like I'm just going to like be me. And I think the right woman understands that like I can be me and also still help you even if you don't agree with something that I said. And if you don't agree with something I said, it doesn't matter,
Right.
right? Like we're all entitled to our own opinions. So I haven't had much hate like you were talking about like people using things against you, but I have had a lot of hate like on Instagram Reels. I pulled back from it a little bit. Like I used to be so like in my like
Okay, wait, you have to share what kind of hate.
oh I will. So like in my Instagram Reels or like in my like probably like a year or two ago, I was very heavy into like self-love, confidence. That was like the road that I was plowing in my plus size body. And I would share that like to coach other women. And so like I would this was like natural. Like this is just like who I am. I would like dance around in a bikini, like do like fun little videos and stuff like and as a plus size woman, I would do it and people would be like, "Oh my God." Like it would be very like big because I think that we see like these plus size women online and they still miss the mark. Like I'm glad that we're seeing more representation, but they miss the mark of like they'll have like really big boobs and like a little bit of a curve and then a really big butt. And I'm like, love that for you, like happy for you. But like that, I'm like, I have no boobs and like my stomach is really big and like it is what it is. So like I would just show up like that, like very real, raw, and very
That's
vulnerable.
really hard to do.
Yeah. Um, and like for me, it wasn't hard because so like for me, it's like I'm like, oh, social media, like everybody's a stranger. Except like now if we're talking like on my
That's how I
Facebook
feel on
page,
TikTok. Like I don't give a fuck on
TikTok too.
TikTok and I don't give a fuck on YouTube. But
Yeah,
YouTube, I have the meanest people. Like I do
one
not understand the YouTube community. Like I have on my thrift haul account, I have the nicest lady that comments, but my without a doubt page, like I don't know what it is.
really
It's mostly men though, by the way. And they all have a fucking comment. When I post like shorts and stuff, one time I posted a short about us cutting down a fucking tree. Every person had a comment about the way we cut the tree.
so that is so funny. So my YouTube, I started a YouTube too, and it was supposed to be more like a lifestyle channel. I'm like so behind, but um one of my videos went viral and I got like 300 subscribers from it, and they're all men. And they all comment things like, "You are so beautiful. I love you." And I'm just like, I really like one guy was like, he said something like, oh my gosh, you are so smart and beautiful. And I was like, actually, I'm super stupid and like the ugliest person ever, like just being like really funny. And like all my friends thought it was the funniest thing ever. I was dying. I'd love to be like a troll to them because I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Why are
Like,
you here,
bro,
right?
get off here. Like, but whatever. If you're gonna get me to my 1,000 subscribers so I can start making money, I don't give a fuck,
Same,
baby.
that's all I want on there.
Yeah. But no, like I would, so like it feels so anonymous for me that like it doesn't bother me to like to do that. Now, if we're talking about my Facebook, I feel a little bit edgier on there because I have a lot of like friends on there that I know like in real life or people that I have conversations with. But honestly, I'm just like, forget it, post it anyways. But like I also have some like family that I know judges me. And so
Don't
that
we
is
all?
very difficult. Yeah, very difficult. But I'm just like, I just post it anyways because the point isn't for them, it's to help the woman that needs to see that. But
By the way, I block my family members that I don't want to see like I legit I just blocked my brother last week off my Facebook because he wrote like a really nasty comment, but he wrote it like as a joke.
what
And
a
I
jerk.
was like,
Your brother, right?
my brother's just an asshole. I have two brothers. He's like my middle
Okay.
brother, but it's funny he wrote on that and he was like such a troll because I literally was talking so nicely in my podcast about him. And I was like,
I
my brother,
know.
that's changed. He wrote on there, he's like, this is the fakest podcast full of conspiracy theories. Like
What a little
he's
shit.
also my brother that calls me Fattison. So
And also when I heard you talk about your brother, I thought you meant like fad, like FAD. And I was like, oh, that's so like catchy. Like she's so
no, because you're fat,
fad.
Fattison.
Oh
Bro,
my
family can be the worst. And that's why I said, like,
bro.
it's okay to block your family. And I think that's okay
Totally.
because your family is not meant to buy your shit anyway.
No, they're not going to. They're going to be, yeah. On Instagram Reels, like, like dancing around, I would get so much hate, like just tons of hate comments about like my body, about like go on a diet or lose some weight. Like,
It's crazy that people write that because as someone who was a big girl, like I was 220 pounds myself, I wore a size 16. When
hmm,
I see big girls at the beach in their bathing suits, like if I see you posting that, like I'm like, that is so hard. Like I really give you credit because I don't, I struggle in my body still, like with
hmm,
what I look like. And sometimes I just don't feel happy with what I have. And I'm like, girl, are you fucking kidding? Like you're so healthy. Just,
yeah,
but I clap when I see I hate to call it a big girl. When I see and I
big
see
girl.
any woman, but I see a girl out in her sports bra and her leggings and she's running, she's doing something that the size 4, the size small, the size large does, and she's a 2XL, a 3XL, she's a bigger girl and she's still getting out there and living in her body. I'm like, Kendra knows, I literally am like clapping in my car. I'm like, you go, girl. I want to roll down
Yeah.
the window, but I don't want her to think that I'm like trying to be condescending or mean. I literally am just so proud because not enough women are confident in what we have or our bodies. And you making videos, like, you really, I don't know if, like, I'm going to tell you, but if you don't know this, you're like a step ahead already of the average woman that you can do that for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah,
No one loves I feel like not enough people love what they have. We all
totally.
want something else.
Or it's like surface level too. I think a lot of surface level love. And it's like to be able to have like a deep connection to where I am at peace in my solitude and in my body is like one of the most beautiful gifts that I could give myself. Like I'm happy to dance around naked in my kitchen and like just be okay. And it has taken me years to get there, years of like self-hatred, disconnect, disrespect, self-sabotage. And I am not like perfect in that at all. Like it didn't happen overnight. And I still find myself like I have like a mean girl. And this is one of the beautiful modalities that like I work with is called parts techniques. And it's like a part of me. And at first she sounds vicious, right? She is mean. Like she'll be like, saying the meanest things to me. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like I would never say that out loud. I would never say that to anyone else. but like she is there and she is mean. And it took me a lot of work to realize that she is mean because she is protecting me from what other people have said or have said behind my back about me. Like she is there because she is a protector. And so she's going to hurt my feelings before anybody else does, right? And so like then I get to, and this is why I think parts integration is so beautiful, because then I get to work with her and just be like, oh wow, like hey, like thanks for being here, thanks for coming online, I understand what you're doing. That actually doesn't serve me right now. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to table that. We'll come back to it later. But like not seeing her, not allowing her to be here, like pushing her down, telling her to shut up is just going to make her angry and like come out louder, right? So like knowing these things, like kind of working with these things, really allows for like that deep connection and to like better understand yourself and where like things are coming from. So like I appreciate you saying that. And it's taken like a lot of work for me anymore. Like I think it takes a very like thick skin to like show up online in those ways, but
Oh,
also at the
yes.
same time, no one is going to say anything about me online that I haven't already told myself 20 times worse.
Yeah, you have a point there. And I mean, that inner mean girl, we all have her. And it's like the things
Yeah.
that we say to ourselves inside are never things that we would even say out loud. You say not even to yourself, not even probably to your worst
No.
enemy.
No. And so like those little teenage boys or those young little guys that are always like little twigs that have 100 followers behind a fake profile that are on my Instagram saying mean things to me, I'm like, you're not telling me anything that I haven't already thought.
Right.
So
That's
like,
so true.
okay, goodbye. Like you think that that bothers me? You should have heard what I said about myself 5 years ago. Like
You
that
know,
ain't
it's like sometimes
that's
I
the best
also,
I got.
I agree. I think that too. And then sometimes I'm like, nobody knows my fucking experiences. Nobody knows
Mhm.
what, how I fucking got here right now. And
Totally.
nobody knows what my body used to look like. Nobody knows anything. I
Yeah.
always think to myself, like, why am I so hard on myself about those things? And I think it comes a lot with just body image, body dysmorphia, body just being a woman growing up in the
Yeah.
90s. Um,
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. Like we grew up in a time where like eating disorders were freaking cool,
I ate, you were eating? Okay. All right. Let me just explain something to you. I watched your stories this morning about you grocery shopping at 1 a.m., your
Oh my God.
Instacart or whatever the fuck you did in the middle of the night, and the
I
shit
don't
you
know how
bought.
I did this.
I just want to let you know, let me just share with you if you're listening to this podcast, Sarah purchased an artichoke, some eggs, um,
Zucchini
zucchini. This is what the girl bought at 1 o'clock in the morning when
and
she
a
Instacart.
banana. A
Okay. And
banana. Oh my God.
she needed water. And
That's what I ordered.
and then in another story, she's literally eating like a slice of a beet. Like that story leads
Okay.
me here. Wait, that story leads me here into when I was like 12 and thought I was fat and I wasn't. I was an average girl that was like an average size 9, not fat. I played softball. I was just like all the other girls and did sports. I think back now, I look at the picture, I'm like, what? You weren't fat. You had a little belly, girl. My mom was on this diet and I joined her, and it was canned tuna fish, sliced beets, and some other random shit. And I ate sliced beets for like 2 months. I don't even think I lost weight because at 12 years old,
You
what
shouldn't
kid
wait.
is going to be losing weight on that when you go to school and eat a bag of chips or three? You know what I'm saying? And I just think you were
Yeah.
eating that beet. And all I could think to myself was, I remember eating sliced beets when my mom did this diet. Well, my mom did lose a lot of weight, but my mom did this diet and I ate just like her because that's what I did when I was like in 1999. What the
Oh my God.
fuck?
I literally, that reminds me of like, I did a diet at 12 years old too because I bought a diet book. And at 12 years old, you should never be on a diet. Like you're barely in puberty. You need food, you need fuel. Like you have to
You
eat.
run around as a child. When our
Like,
age, we didn't video game. We were all
yes.
outside.
Oh my gosh, like doing the most wildest things, by the way. But I
Listen,
will
I had a
say,
bike with pegs on it and I was literally
oh,
biking with someone on the front, something on the back. Do you know how many calories you're burning carrying around 200 pounds of boys on your bike. Get the fuck
I
out of
love
here.
it. I love it. Yeah, we were always like walking like 2 miles to the freaking mall or pool. Who let us do that? I have no idea.
No,
Like, not my mom. She
I
didn't
had to
know.
stay in my neighborhood. And if I wanted to go to the gas station across the street, I had to like call her and ask her. And she'd be like, what's wrong with all the snacks in the cabinet?
Oh my God, it's not the same.
I wanted to go to the gas station and feel like a adult
Cool
buying
kid.
my
Yeah.
own, buying an Arizona iced tea, you know?
Yes. With my 99 cents.
Yeah, I want it was cheap then, you know, life was cheap
That's
then.
so cheap.
But it's like crazy
Um,
that, you know, like that is what you were doing at 1 o'clock in the morning. It makes me laugh because the average person like me, I'm like, I would be buying Oreos and a bundt cake and brownie mix because I'm a fat ass in the middle of the night. I just want to eat.
I don't know what I was doing. I will say though, like as I was eating my beets, in the oven was gluten-free sourdough bread with a little bit of brie cheese. So I did,
Okay.
okay,
But
like
that's not unhealthy.
no, no. And you know what? Even if it is, so the fuck
Enjoy
what?
it.
Like you are allowed to eat. Like not all food has to be like
There's no such thing
healthy.
as bad food, by the way.
No, there's not. There is like, and that's like one thing that I really teach to like my clients is like we label food, but we shouldn't label food. And like there's actually a really beautiful like connection between honoring our desires and like what the body wants and craves, and also eating a beautiful, diverse diet of different plants and vegetables and meats and all that. Like there has to be a balance because if not, I just talked about this on my stories actually. Like if we don't have that balance, then what happens is that we tip the scale too far over to one side and then we end up in a binge, you
I know
know?
it too well, far too well.
Same, same.
You know, and I just think that, you know, maybe it's the society that we live in. Maybe it's American society really. And I also think just like a lot of the foods that we have are just made with a lot of processed things and hormones. And I mean, we're all bigger people in this country. You have to question some of the food, what's being put into our foods, the chronic illnesses that people have here that they don't have in other countries. You know, America is very unhealthy. And there's a huge emphasis on plus size and people being big and thinking that being fat equates to being unhealthy. And I love that you mentioned that way earlier. I actually
Hmm.
talked about this on my podcast with my dietitian, and
Hmm.
we were talking about how, you know, when Lizzo came out and she was like really big, and everyone, I feel like that's when the big girl, plus size, curvy girl thing really hit hard when she was like, I
Yeah.
can be a big girl and be a pop star. Um, but she exercised, she rode her bike and she did things, and, you
Yeah.
know,
And she was
my,
vegan for a
yeah,
long time.
and my biggest thought process, and like I said this on my podcast, it's not that you're unhealthy, it's that when you're bigger you're putting a lot more pressure on your organs, your knees, your joints. It's harder on your body the older you get. It's harder being mobile, and you see bigger women or men when they're older, they have a harder time doing things, getting up, sitting, like just what's the word, I'm sitting up out of the couch, that's not the right word, getting off the couch is harder. And
Yeah.
I think that's what, when I was talking about it, I'm like, I still don't love that there's like, I feel that plus size is normal in America and everywhere, but I think that a lot of people aren't doing the right things to combat health. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's like you can still be healthy and be big. And I love that you said that. But I also think it's like you walk and you get outside and you do things. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm just okay being fat. I'm okay being big. And it's like, are you okay being stagnant and sitting around and being immobile and needing oxygen? And I think if you can walk and do all the things, you'll live longer. Like, not saying to lose weight. That
Yeah.
should not be the emphasis on what you need to do. I just think we need to move.
So I'm gonna be a devil's advocate here. And I think that um like what you're saying is like there's a lot of people that think that way, but like I definitely have like a different viewpoint on that. And so like me working in healthcare, working on what's called a SNF unit, like rehabilitation, long-term health, like for elderly, seeing that like some of like the really thin patients or even like the average size patients, they all have the same issue. So at the end of the day, it's less about like your size and more about like more mobility. But I do want to just like preface this, like everybody deserves respect versus no matter what they're doing or what they're putting into their body, right? Like everybody deserves basic healthcare, basic respect,
Definitely.
no matter what. Even if like they're like, I am okay being fat, I'm okay being plus size. I I show that I move my body. I show that I, eat great, well-rounded diet, but it's also like I think that it's also okay if you don't. Like that is your choice and like that
It
is
is your choice, and it is okay for
your
sure.
life. And if that's what you're okay with, then that's what you're okay with. You still deserve basic respect. You know what
I
I'm saying?
agree. I definitely agree.
Um, and I think that there's too much of an emphasis put on that, like when we see bigger bodies, um, and like we don't know what their health looks like. You cannot look at someone and tell me that they do or they don't work out or they do or they don't eat healthy. And
100%.
so because of that, and even like with chronic illness, because of that, like I think that it can be like very dangerous to like assume that we know what's going on with someone based off of how they look or how they present themselves. I have a lot of chronic illnesses. I still move my body, but I still have a hard time doing certain things. And that's just the life I live with a chronic illness, right? It's debilitating. And people like in marginalized bodies have to deal with like everybody else's like opinions
Listen,
about how they live.
marginalized bodies have issues too.
Yeah,
And I think that the way that I think this is where I was getting at.
yeah.
It's like where we glamorize being a plus size person and
Hmm.
saying it's okay, which it is okay to be a plus size person.
Hmm.
I think it's great. You hear me say I love people who love their bodies and do things, but I think I watch my grandma who's 86 and my grandma has thyroid issues, like she has a lot of things. She's very small, she's healthy for 86, but she has a lot of issues too at her age. Her knees
Hmm.
hurt, things like that, and she's not big. She's very small. And
Yeah.
I think to myself, when you say like older people, you get it's all the same stuff. They all struggle with pretty much the same things. But I think if you want to live to be longer, you live longer and be able to do things longer.
Hmm.
Chronic illness is a whole nother sector
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
your body. And I hate to say, like, not hate to say it, it's the reality is that it limits so much of what you can do. And I do think a lot of people that have chronic illnesses, not a lot, a handful of people do tend to go plus size because you're debilitated from doing things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't think that your body dictates your worth, your any of that. That's not where I'm going with that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I think that when Lizzo came out and all of that, people started glamorizing the plus size thing, saying, I'm just gonna eat and do nothing and that's okay. Which it is, if that's what you want to do for your life.
Yeah.
I just feel like I want to live longer. I want to live healthier. And when I
Mhm.
say healthier, I mean like I don't want everything to be a struggle. When things are a struggle for me now at 33 years old, I
Yeah.
have knee issues from overtraining and all of I have my own things too because I fucked up my life trying to be a fit girl.
Yeah. And I think that that right there kind of like ties the bow together, right? Because as far as like glamorizing those things, I feel like from my viewpoint, like that was so needed because we see too much glamorization of eating disorders, of thin white women, of over exercising. Like no one like glamorizing is I just feel like
I
it's so
hate it.
interesting. I feel like it's so interesting because like no one actually wants to be fat or plus size. I think all it did was like help the plus size women actually feel seen for once.
Correct.
Actually see someone who's in a bigger body accomplish something so beautiful that they were like, wow, like that can be me. Never once was Lizzo being like, hey, you can be fat and eat a whole bunch of donuts and do this, like the
No.
basic assumption, but like it just helped plus size women actually feel seen, like in an industry that's mostly thin people, but also just be seen in general. And I think that that was like really, really beautiful. So like, as far as like glamorization, like I'm kind of like on the other side of it. I think it was kind of important,
See, and I
but
think it's interesting because like when
uh,
I don't even think that mid-sized bodies are represented well.
no, I think
So
that
it's like when I say glamorizing, I guess that's not the right word either. But you're right. We opened up the doors to show people like, hey, there are other people out there. And I think that is
yeah,
the beauty of social media, and that is the beauty of what we can do, like how you share. You can be raw and vulnerable and talk about the other side of being a plus size, and maybe I guess glamorizing wasn't the right word. It did
no,
open the
I
door.
didn't mean
No,
to
no,
like,
no. I get
I
it.
didn't
No,
feel wrong
but
about that. I was
it
like, hold
definitely,
on.
it definitely did open the door for everyone. But
Yeah,
then, what's the girl on my fat, fabulous, fat, fabulous? Do you know what show I'm talking about on TLC?
I don't.
She's like, oh shit, I don't watch it. I have a really hard time watching the shows like that about people. Like, I feel like she glamorizes being overweight. She's a dance instructor, but she says it all the time. I love being fat. I love being fat. And I'm like, I was fat and I didn't love it. So I can't relate to that. I always
Yeah,
wanted to be a little smaller. I always wanted to have a different body, but I can tell you
right.
that as soon as I got to the body that I wanted, it still wasn't the body that I
And that's
wanted.
because, yeah, and that's because like that's actually never the issue.
Exactly.
So like my clients will come to me and they'll be like, I want to lose weight. And my first thought is like, no, you don't. So I kind of get to like the bottom line, like, okay, what is losing weight gonna do for you? And then it's
Boom.
always like endurance, flexibility, feel better about myself. Okay, those are the goals. If weight loss comes with that, that's fine. But
Exactly.
the goal is never weight loss. Weight loss is not going to get you these things. And I see it too often with people who have gastric bypass, Ozempic, all those other things. Like they do those things, and I just want to hug them because they're ruining their hormones, their metabolism, their relationship with food, and that takes
Exactly.
time to heal when you do those things.
Hmm.
So it's and they do it, and then they're like, I still don't love myself. I still don't feel confident. Well, that's because the weight was never the issue.
Exactly.
It's always so much deeper than that. And
And
we
that's
assume it's weight because of the society that we live in, right? Like diet culture is $1 billion industry.
it's
And there's a
disgusting.
reason why. Almost 88% of diets fail, and then you gain the weight back. And that is more dangerous
Yep.
than actually being overweight and over
100%.
like, and the word obese is so stupid because
I hate that word
the
because it
BMI
doesn't,
scale is a load of crap.
it's
Like,
so
I mean,
cringy. I don't like the BMI thing. I don't even like to me,
it
I
doesn't
feel,
actually tell you anything about
yeah.
health.
And I don't want anyone to like listen to this podcast and be like, Madison, you hate fat people, because I do
Oh
not,
my
because
God,
I was
no,
there.
no.
And I think that like the people are so misrepresented by numbers. The weight on
Yeah,
the scale number doesn't define you, doesn't
yeah.
define how strong you are,
It's
how
just
fit you
data,
are. It's literally data.
a little tiny piece of data, like not even like the full picture.
And whoever's coming around telling anybody that because you're 5'3", you should be 124 pounds, that
It's
is some
insane.
bullshit that needs to get thrown out the window, because I
Mhm.
can't even tell you when I was 125 pounds.
Well, not only that, but it actually like the BMI scale is well, first of all, it's definitely rooted in racism. It was by a mathematician. It wasn't even by a doctor. It was never supposed to be used for medical health. And he even came out and said that. It was literally just a thing to use for like thin white males. I can't even remember the exact purpose, but you can look it up. It was never supposed to be used in the medical field. Why we adopted it and why we have never changed it is because it's again that $1 billion industry, big pharma, like those things, that's what sells, keeping
Everything's
people.
about money and how who can get money, who can get rich, who's greedy. It's
Yeah,
really sad, and everyone really capitalizes on that, you
yeah,
know? And I feel like that's like one of those things too. It's like I'm very proud that we live in times where people can share like you on
yeah.
TikTok and feel like, you know what, I'm going to just do it, because we do need people like that. Because like I said, for the third fucking time, that is so hard, because myself, I struggle just to post a picture of myself in a bathing suit thinking that people are going to zoom in and pick my body apart. But
Hmm.
this also comes from a lot of years of being in the eye of being somebody who was supposed to have a body type of this, a fitness
Right.
instructor. You should be, and I was never a six pack girl. I could outlift any man in my class, but I'm not going to be
Absolutely.
a small girl. I mean, I
Yeah.
look back at some of my thinner pictures of myself and I'm like, were you really happy? And I'm like, not really. I live my happiest life now when I can take a bite of anything that I want and not feel guilty. And I think
Definitely.
we all need to like really focus on just living our lives happier and however we can do that. Well, I just really think that we all are too focused on what we look like versus how we feel. And
Totally.
I think, that is really when I found your page. I think a lot of what you talk about is how you feel, not necessarily what you look like. And I think that's another reason why I was drawn into you. You seem very human.
Um, yeah, thank you. I
So,
appreciate that. And that is always my goal is just to find a way to like be more human, be more open and honest and real in a world where everybody is trying to be someone else or trying to look a certain way.
no joke. And we just got to be ourselves and be happy, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to actually drop all of your links in my show notes. You are without a doubt a badass. And I love you. I love you. Thanks for being here. I literally could not be doing this podcast without the listens that are coming in. I just want to remind you rate, review, like, hopefully 5 stars. I'll see you next Wednesday. See you later, Gator.